Welcome to another episode of Moon Monkey. On this episode we talk about A Cure for Wellness, directed by Gore Verbinsky.
So yeah, A Cure for Wellness is a kind of odd mixture of psychological horror film and social satire. It starts off with a young businessman working for some high-flying financial company, I believe. And basically, he gets given an assignment to go off to some Swiss alpine retreat to go and find one of their former partners, Pembroke, who they believe's gone insane and is refusing to come back to New York City because they need him to sign off some deal or to get his signature for some deal.
And also they're gonna
blame they're basically gonna blame the downfall of the company on this guy. But they get a letter from him saying, I'm not gonna leave this retreat, and it's talking about a sickness at the heart of society, and in kind of a bleak reference to capitalism, I believe, and saying that there's an illness and people aren't well, and that's why he's kind of escaped from society. So anyway, they send the young businessman off. He arrives at the Swiss retreat, and pretty soon he realizes something's not quite right here. You have Jason Isaacs there playing the Dr. Volmer, who's the head of the institution, with a very creepy, weird performance. And he also meets a young girl played by Mia Goth, who is also something not quite right. And it's basically him trying to figure out what's going on at this institution and trying to get Pembroke to come back with him, which he refuses to do.
Yeah, I mean it's a very strange thing. Like you're saying, it's got a lot of references to other movies. Immediately, it reeks of Shutter Island.
Yeah,
it's got that really kind of Shutter Island vibe, but maybe not done in as good a way in a lot of ways. And it's got like The Shining and like gothic horror, like you're saying, and it also reminded me of like the video game Wolfenstein. Castle Wolfenstein.
Yeah,
There's a little bit of that, but maybe that's just me playing too much video games.
You do have the very Teutonic, villains, the very typical German mad scientist villain in a way. And like you were saying, like it reminds you of kind of old horror, like Dracula, because the whole thing is the institute's at a castle on the hill, and you've got the villagers beneath, and the castle up there. It's very like Dracula or Frankenstein, that kind of vibe, and especially so. Not to get too much into spoilers, but especially so, the latter part of the movie, it veers more towards the horror side.
Yeah.
It starts off like, that was the weird thing I felt about it. Where it starts and where it finishes are two completely different movies almost. Like when it starts, the first 10 minutes, you think, oh, it's going to be this kind of film. It's going to be a
Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah,
or something like that.
Well, I thought it's just going to be like a dark satire about business and capitalism and kind of. I knew from the trailer that he goes to the institute, but I thought the whole thing would be a referencing business. But then when he gets to the institute, it becomes a different film again. And like you say, a bit like Shutter Island, it's like the psychological: is he going crazy, or is everyone around him crazy? What's going on with the people in the institution that they don't realise that there's some really terrible things happening around them? And then towards the end of the movie, it veers into, just out-and-out horror, like shock horror, and quite grotesque scenes.
It touches on a lot of really, really horrible subjects and quite horrific scenes.
Yeah.
But it never goes fully into any kind of one kind of horror trope. It's not a certain type of horror movie. There's like little touches of sprinklings of different things.
Yeah, it's very much, I guess, a mishmash, if you wanted to be unkind about it, of different films, or a tapestry, if you wanted to be more kind. It's kind of a lot of things. If you really like gothic horror and this type of film, you'll probably enjoy it. I think it depends whether you like the films that it's referencing or that it's based on.
It also depends if you want to really. If you just want something to sit and munch popcorn to and not think about it, then this really isn't the film for you. If you want to sit for the next 6 hours after you leave the cinema and try and figure out what was actually going on and link it all together, then this probably is the film for you.
Yeah.
Because there's so much, when you come out, you're like, what happened? What was going on? You know, it leaves you... And it's not even like you didn't understand it completely, but it just goes on for so long.
I felt like the film... I'm kind of torn between whether the film was really clever or really stupid, but just pretending like it's clever. Because there were so many nice shots in this.
It looked beautiful.
Oh yeah, the visuals were fantastic, and like the way it was shot. But there were so many scenes of like people looking in a mirror, or people being reflected in an eye, and there was a lot of stuff with like the left eye of characters, and then of a deer on the wall.
Water.
Water constantly being referenced and re-referenced. Eels. Yeah, if you do not like eels, don't go see this movie. No,
this is not the movie for you.
But yeah, there were so many little things. Or like the watch, like his watch was stopping at certain times. There were so many little close-ups and little details where
like
it was
dreaming.
It's hinting towards something, but then at the end you felt like... The thing was, it did all tie together, which I liked. At the end you realise why they'd kept pointing to things at the beginning. It's all like a clue towards the mystery. But it almost felt as though it wasn't terribly deep. Like the meaning behind it, it was just a surface level, oh, that's the mystery.
And also it felt like it was hinting to the mystery and giving you clues throughout, but it hinted so much for me that at certain points you maybe didn't figure out the entire themes and undercurrents of the movie, but you figured out what was going on much before the character actually decided, oh, this is what's going on. Because you're like, you must have figured it out by now.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, you figured out pretty much about 10 minutes after he gets to the institution
not everything. Not every dark secret, but you know there's something going on, but you don't know the entire
but he seems kind of oblivious to the fact that, like, it's something bad is happening. But the thing, like I was saying, that it kind of changes tack halfway through. The film that it starts off, and you imagine it's going to explain one thing, and then it turns into another type of mystery. And it never really returns to the initial, like, business partner thing until the very end. And it just kind of ties it up. But it's like, there's no real connection between one part and the other part, I felt.
I would disagree, because everybody at the Institute is from that world. And they're all rich, and they're all from the business world, and they're all being successful. And they think that they're really sick.
Yeah.
And they think as they're cute. So it's always linked to that world, because it's like they're all from that world.
But, yeah, I guess so. But it kind of let you make up your mind. Like, the film didn't really seem to...
I never went back to New York.
Like, push you in any kind of
escaped from New
direction.
York.
Yeah, it did escape from New York. A bit like Kurt Russell.
Yeah.
But it didn't seem to have anything to say about that. I felt, other than, capitalism is not great. And it's like a sickness.
I know.
I felt like, oh, you're going to really delve into this, but then once you got to the institution, it kind of turned into another type of film, and forgot a little about the satire element of it. But yeah, like, the visuals were really good. There were a lot of like great creepy scenes, and like very confusing stuff happening to him. Like near the beginning when he walks into a sauna, and then there's like no way out, no doors, and he's just locked in a room. And you're like, oh. Yeah, this film's not great if you have claustrophobia, or you don't like kind of eels or slimy things.
There's bound to be a name for the fear of eels.
Yeah.
Which we should have looked up before we started doing this.
But actually, one thing I felt about this film, there's very little like gore in it, and there's very few jump scares in it. It's not a film that relies on jump scares. It's just more like an uneasy atmosphere that it builds
constantly.
Up.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's one scene definitely I can think of which is horrendous, and you might look away. That was kind of quite shocking. But other than that, it's just this weird, uneasy atmosphere. But yeah, I enjoyed this film more than a lot of people did. But I think it's because I like kind of gothic horror. That's what I liked, seeing a kind of gothic horror film that was really beautifully shot.
Well, I thought visually it looked really good, and there's a lot of like little nods to different movies that I liked. There's loads of stuff like it's like Shutter Island, it's like The Shining, and there's loads of stuff like that which I enjoyed. But I think like people that have maybe never seen Shutter Island or seen The Shining might think this is really amazing. But then if you've seen Shutter Island or you've seen The Shining, you'll be like, this is just not as good as those.
Oh yeah, like I've seen both of those films, but this was different enough that I didn't. The only problem I had with this was that it was long. But then I found Shutter Island really long as well. My main problem with this was it was.
Have you even seen Shutter Island all the way through?
I have seen Shutter Island. Right. I've seen it more than once as well. But yeah, Shutter Island. I'm not as big a fan of Shutter Island as some people. Like,
It seemed like the director was. That's all.
Oh yeah,
It seemed like he loved Shutter Island.
Yeah, this does reference Shutter Island. But this is more like gothic, or that's just more on the psychological level. This one went more into crazy gothic horror at the end, which I liked. I like that it just took such a left turn and went really weird at the end. That's what I liked about it. But it was too long. I think they could have cut like easily half an hour out of it, because they do keep doing things over, like little kind of creepy instances that they keep replaying. There
was multiple parts. I was like, surely he's dead now. That's got to be the end, because they look like they're about to kill him. And then he's back again. You cut to the next scene, he's sitting in a chair.
There were a lot of points where it kind of felt as though the film was wrapping up.
Yeah.
And then it carried on, especially one point where you thought it had wrapped up, and then it was like another half hour after that, it started off like an entirely different story that wrapped up, and you're like, okay, it does tie in, but I thought we were kind of finished back there. So that's our review of A Cure for Wellness. We'll be back soon with another review. Make sure to like and subscribe.